Hey everyone, it's Ashlar here, and welcome to the fourth beginner Java tutorial on random numbers. We're going to be picking up right where we left off in the third random numbers tutorial using the code that's on the screen right now. So you can either, if you didn't get this, you can either copy the code that's on the screen right now and pause the video if you need more time to do that, or you can go to the previous three tutorials and follow along with how we ended up with the code on your screen right now. All right, so from here, let's actually make a second die. So what we can do is copy this code right here where we created the first one, create a new line, and then, of course, rename this to die 2. Now we've essentially got two dice. We've got die 1 and die 2, but die 2 isn't doing anything yet. Essentially what we want to do is roll them together the way you'd roll two dice at once. So we can open up the space in our for loop here and copy this code, because this code was essentially rolling this one die 10 times. If we want to roll two dice 10 times, we can just use the same exact code. You could type it all out again if you want to, but for the purposes of the tutorial, I'm just going to copy it just to show that it's exactly the same code running, except we have to change a couple important things. Instead of int x, we need to have a new variable to contain the value of die 2. So we're going to change that to y, and the random number that we're getting needs to be die 2 instead of die 1. And then, of course, we need to change it here to plus plus y instead of plus plus x. And then in the print line, we're going to change the text to die 2. And by the way, this stuff in green, this is literally just typing something. It's not officially code. So you can put anything that you want here. I could put, you know, the second die rolled a, told a. So I can leave that too. The second die told a, and let's just say, so you can really put anything that you want. The second die told a, and then of course what we want to print out at the end of that is the value of y rather than the value of x. So right here we've got the second die told a y, and the first one says die 1 rolled an x. So whatever value we get for x gets printed out on this line. Whatever value we rolled for y, which is that die 2, gets printed on this line. So we've got two random number objects, each getting a value and then printing them out. And this is going to happen. We've got how many rolls? 10. And that's going to happen 10 times. So now if I go ahead and run this, I'm going to show you what we get in the list. And each time now we get die 1 rolled a 2, the second die told a 5. Die 1 rolled a 3, the second die told a 2. Die 1 rolled, and all the way down. So we've got basically 10 rolls are happening with each one of these die. So to continue from here, I will correct this right now just so it's a little clear later. The second die, well, we'll just make it uniform. Die 2 rolled a. All right. Die 2 rolled a, and then if I run the code again, it should be uniform. And you'll see that we've got two dice rolling, and they each, actually a few times they rolled the same number, but that's just a coincidence. They are actually two different rolls. Die 1 rolled a 3, die 2 rolled a 6. And each time we do that, we're going to get a different set of rolls. Okay, one more thing we might want to do. If we go back and look at the output of this code, it's still, you know, just one line after the next. Die 1 rolled this, die 2 rolled this. Maybe we want to keep track of it a little more and actually find out which roll produced which value. For example, we're rolling 10 times, so we might want to say something like roll number 1, die 1 rolled this, so we can kind of keep track and it's a little more understandable and readable. So in order to do that, we need to get the value of what roll we're on. And a good way to do that is we've got this counter. Now the counter is starting at 0. The counter is counting from 0 to 9, and we're getting 10 rolls. So rather than saying on roll 0, we want to say roll 1, we can define a new variable, and we're going to call this, it's got to be an integer because we're working with whole numbers, integer, and we'll call this roll number. And what it really is going to be, so that we get it counting from 1, is we can use that counter, because remember that counter variable is going to increase each time this code runs. So we would essentially get which roll number we're on, but we want to add 1 to it so we don't start at 0. So we're going to do counter plus 1. So now we've got a variable called roll number, which is the value of counter, and adding 1 to it. So in each line of code now with the X output and the Y output, we could add more parentheses, more quotation marks, and say on roll number and then space, because we need to add our own spaces in before the quotation marks. Otherwise, everything is just one string of text. And then we're going to print out roll number. So we have to use our plus to print that out and then type in the name of that variable plus roll number. And then we're going to do a plus again to add the rest of this text that we started with. And then again, we got to add a space in here so that there's a space between the number and the word die. And then we're going to do the exact same thing, and we can go ahead and copy and paste this here and put it into our Y printout. Let's see here. I think I got an extra quotation mark. There we go. So now it's going to say in X on roll number, and then whatever the roll number turns out to be, which is just counter plus 1. So it should start with on roll number 1, die 1 rolled a X, and then whatever the value is. And then down here, we didn't need to change the second half. Oh, we do need a space before die 2. On roll number, and then the roll number is going to be the same for both dice, so we don't need a different variable here. We can just keep that roll number. And now I'll go ahead and run the code again, and you should see that we've got this list. Oh, I have to move the screen for you. We've got this list down here on roll number 1, die 1 rolled a 3, and then so on and so forth. Now we can keep track of which roll we're on, but it's still all, basically one string of text going down the screen. What we could do here is after the Y value, we could do a sys out and just basically print a blank line each time. And the purpose of that is just to group them so we can clearly see. You can just put quotation marks with nothing in them, and that essentially creates a blank line. So by running the code again here and moving down, we get the same information, but now there's a new line between each roll that you can clearly see what each one is. All right, that's it for your 4th tutorial on random numbers. The code on the screen is everything we did for this tutorial. We're going to be picking up in the same spot in tutorial number 5, where we're going to finish up this dice rolling program. Thanks again for watching. Hope you learned a lot, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video. Leave me comments and questions down below.